Before I finish the going through this, just a couple more points. Wanted to have a guest speak, someone that used to be at our facilities, and many years ago, I remember going down to Unit, was it E?
Yeah.
Unit E, before it was torn down and the Youth Leadership Academy was built over it. But his name, he went by Ronnie then, and Ronnie was probably about 125 pounds or something, and I gave him a book that I think it was the only copy I had. I got in the book, it was somebody's testimony, couldn't get any more of them easily anyway, and so I gave that book to Ronnie, and it ended up being something that God used. And Ronnie went on to the California Youth Authority and did something that we should all be very proud of. He walked with the Lord in the California Youth Authority. But he goes by Doug. Now he's involved at Calvary Chapel Tustin, which is now in Santa Ana, but that's another story. And, so let's welcome Doug Goulding.
So it's crazy. Like, I'm actual like fruit of this ministry. And
Praise Jesus.
You know, it's amazing. It's not just like jail ministry, but like this particular one. You know, and it's you know, we're talking 22 years ago, something like that. And I'm your typical case of what you're going to run into. Get saved at 15 and follow for a year or two, and then go away for a bunch of years, and then come back in my, you know, early 30s. And so sometimes you're not going to see like the real fruit for like 20 years, and you know, it's just the way it is. But I grew up in a broken home. My dad was a heroin addict, so there was just constant fighting in the house. Growing up, my dad wouldn't really, you know, be abusive with my mom or anything, but he would get in fights with like my uncle and stuff, and you know, we just constantly had people living with us. A lot of times it was like cousins that got kicked out of every place. No one would take them, or my mom would take them in, and I just had tons of, you know, drama and just bad influences in my house. And so I was ADHD, and I was bad. I was like, I never took any medication. I was just bouncing off the walls. It was just, there was no hope for me. God was my only hope. And I just embraced bad things at a young age. You know, I don't know how else to say it. I embraced evil at a young age from a little kid. Oh, a little 5 or 6 year old kid. I was just a little 5, 6 little evil kid. I mean, I mean, it's kind of funny to laugh at it now, but I mean, you know, just horrible music, pornography, all that stuff. I was just into all that stuff from a young age, and I just never stopped into my teen years. And you know, when I started going to juvenile hall, it was probably about, I had just turned 13. It was about 2 months after my 13th birthday, and I think we go to church sometimes, you know, just to see people in other sides of the institution. You'd want to see friends, so you go to church. The girls were there. That was a good draw to get guys to church, you know. And I didn't really grow up with much church in my life. We went for maybe like 6 months to a year when I was like 5 or 6. I don't remember any of it. I remember the place, like where it was, but I don't remember, you know, anything I learned. So I was learning like Sunday school stories when I was like 14, 13, you know, for the first time hearing these stories. And, you know, I remember the worship. Remember, Lord, I lift your name on high. Like, I still love that song. Like, I learned it in juvenile hall, and it was just cool. But I remember, Chaplain Rick, it's funny, memories that come back to you all these years later. And I don't know if he remembers this. Now, this is 20 plus years ago, okay? But I remember I came in when I was 15 years old, and I'd been in and out, you know, YGC, Joplin, the halls a few times, and this time I was going to YA, and I stayed out for 6 months, and I was happy. That was the longest I'd stayed out. Like 6 months, man, I was doing good. And I remember telling him, I'm like, man, I was going to school, I wasn't, you know, doing any hardcore drugs. I had a lady, and I started going on, and I remember he's like, you know, man, having a lady, like, anyone can do that. That doesn't mean you're doing good if you have a girlfriend, you know? And I remember like thinking, I'm like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense, you know? There's just a lot of things, you know, growing up. I know my dad, being a heroin addict, man, he would steal a lot. I remember in my house, I'm like, dude, like our bikes would go missing, and it was always, you know, someone broke in, all that. I'm like, man, what? We're just like the hot spot for robbers? Like, where are these guys? Like, why do people keep breaking into our house, you know? And I started finding out when I was like 11, 12, that it was my dad doing all the stealing from us. And, you know, I remember he stole my electric guitar one time, man. It was just like newest lows. And I remember going to the pawn shop. My mom was trying to get it back. We didn't have any money. And at that time, I thought I was going to be a rock star. I couldn't play good, but I thought I was going to be, you know, and I remember just feeling this hatred towards him, you know. And my mom ended up leaving him when I was 12. And, you know, it kind of sucks now talking about this stuff now because I like to have a good relationship with both of them. I've forgiven them and all that stuff. But, you know, at the time when I was 12, you know, I felt abandoned. I was mad at her, you know, and it wasn't even like, you know, if she just would have left him, it would have been one thing. But she left him, she moved in with another man in our same city. And so like people knew about it, and it was really embarrassing, to be honest. I mean, I just remember just being shocked, you know. So I'm just being shocked, everything just going on. You think as a gang member, people die. You should not be traumatized over that. That's a part of gangbanging, and it happens, and it does. There are times when you are numb. Somebody died, you're like, man, rest in peace. You get numb to things. But there are certain experiences that you have, you know. I remember one of my friends died. I remember going to his funeral, and I just remember it shocked me. You know, I've seen dead people before. I've seen it all. I've heard it all, but I remember just seeing his face bruised, black eyes and stuff like that, or you know, just bruises on his face, and it just reminded me that he got beat before he got killed, you know. It was a curveball, you know, and it affected me. You know, I remember getting shot at in front of my house, you know, and it affected me. You know, I was embarrassed to tell anyone that it affected me, you know. When someone tries to kill you, I mean, it's one thing, you know, like you think of like gunshots, but you know, when it's in front of your house, you start thinking, man, you know, was this just a one-night thing, or do they have it out for me? Are they like going to come back? Like, what is this all about, you know? And I can remember sitting on my porch with a loaded gun in my hand. I used to smoke. I used to smoke like a cigarette like every hour, and it was miserable. Every hour I'd go out to smoke a cigarette with a loaded gun in my hand, off safety, man. If just anyone pulls up, I'm going to kill them before they get me. And it was a miserable way to live. I couldn't even live like that anymore, actually. So I started smoking in my backyard. Then you feel like a coward. Man, this guy's got me hiding in my backyard now. Now I just don't want to go to jail. But still, you're feeling this, you know. But you're not expected to be affected by that stuff. You know, and I'm telling you guys this stuff because I want you guys to be careful with your words when you're talking to people, you know. If you're saying stuff like, you know, well, were you traumatized? A lot of times there's this wall that's going to go up. Like, what do you mean traumatized? You know, there's this wall that's going to go up. And so I want you guys to be very careful about how you word things. And they need to know that they're respected still. Like, yes, I know bad stuff happens. I know some people can't handle it, though. And it's okay. You're one of those people who can't handle it. We'll work a little extra with you. That's not going to work, you know. They need to know that, you know what? Traumatic happens. It can happen to anyone, and you can be healed. God can heal you. And, you know, one of the verses that I like to hang on to is John 10:28. As we close up here. When Jesus says to his sheep, he says, I give them eternal life. They will never perish. No one will snatch them from my hands. And just knowing that when Jesus says, no one will snatch you from my hands, I can feel good. I can be like, man, I don't got to depend on myself failing. I don't got to worry about anyone else from my past snatching me up, snatching me back. Jesus says, I'm in his hands and no one will take me from him. And I live by that verse. That verse gives me hope. And so I just want to thank you guys, for taking the time to do this. It doesn't always have to be like an ex-cholo or an ex-criminal. I mean, as long as these guys just know that somebody cares, that's all that you gotta know. Somebody cares. This guy cares about me. This girl cares about me. I can tell you, when I was in Norwalk, this girl used to come every week, and there would be like 3 of us in there, just asking her questions for like an hour. Like, I grew so much in that time. Like I said, I didn't know any church. I knew nothing. We were all just hungry, just thirsty. Give us, what does this mean? What about this? And I looked forward to those, weeks for her coming out, And someone may say, 3 people showed up today, but don't look at the numbers, don't look at the numbers, and just be committed. So let's close in prayer. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for everyone that's here tonight, Lord. Just pray that there's some stuff will just go home with them and stick with them. Just thank you for this opportunity to speak and to do this. In Jesus' name we pray.